Hey guys, this is George Uno with REIClub, and today I got a super special guest. We're down here in Hawaii for an on-site, and I got a special guest today. This is Daniel Kong. I brought him on because he started investing in 2019, and he retired just a few years later, 2.5 years, and basically there's a little wiggle room there, but with a little convincing, his wife let him retire, and so now he's doing real estate investing full-time. He's done it all. He's doing the fix and flips, right? Rentals. And now he's moving into some really exciting things in multifamily, which is really cool. So, Daniel, thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. Yeah, it's excited to be here. You got a nice office over here. Appreciate you opening it up for us.
Well, we're just borrowing this, but it's really nice. So basically, what we like to do is it's called First and Worst. I want to talk about your first deal in real estate investing, and then I want to talk about your worst, because we all love a good car crash, right?
Awesome, yeah.
So let's get started with your first. Take us back. What were you doing before real estate investing?
So before real estate investing, I was actually a software developer. So I did software development for like 20 years. And then just like straight out of college, that was like my first job. Just all I knew, 9 to 5. It wasn't always 9 to 5, but I mean like just like a 40-hour week, right? Just and I was happy. It was like flexible. I enjoyed what I did. But about like 4 years ago, someone introduced me the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. And then once I read that book, that book blew my mind. It's like the idea of just passive income and like getting income while you're not working. Like it never even like occurred to me, or it wasn't even like on my radar or my horizon. And so like after I read that book, it just kind of like opened my world to like passive like income and like real estate investing and other kinds of investing, and just that's really the journey started to like, okay, dive into real estate, try to build up a passive income, and eventually like retire myself from like my W-2. So
Retiring yourself from your W-2, what did that look like?
So that was like, it's been a journey, right? Like 2.5 years of like learning, growing, investing. And I actually didn't start with very much money when I first started. So that was like a little bit of a challenge, but using a burst strategy, a few other kind of like hacks to kind of like supercharge the growth in the very beginning allowed me to kind of like get enough income where it did eventually replace my B2 as a software developer in about 3 years. Yeah. Years of investing.
And tell us about that transition right before you made the switch. What did that look like? You had the passive income coming in that was equal or greater than your W-2 income, but what held you back there?
Yeah, so we were talking about this a little bit about this before, that like one of the things I think is like when you're working at a job, it just feels very safe because you've got like an income, like is a very sure source. You've got like a medical, etc., like all these different things, right? And it feels like when you have a job, it feels very safe. And so like once we got enough passive income to replace what I was making at my job, then like my wife was like still wasn't like super like on board as far as like allowing me to quit. So part of like that last year was just negotiating with my wife and allowing her to allow me to quit my job. And so there was some negotiation back and forth, but I think it was like the right decision to make sure you're on the same page with your wife, And so one of the things was when we did pre-marriage counseling, our pastor told us that in your life, you're gonna have some times where like you and your wife are not gonna be on the same page. There's gonna be like an amazing opportunity that you're gonna be able to make a lot of money, but if your wife is not on the same page, you can't take the opportunity. And I think those are like super wise words. And so like even though like it might make sense financially, like the relationship and like the trust that you build with your wife to make sure you guys are both on the same page before making any big decisions, I think it's super important to like, okay, you have to pass with that opportunity and make sure you guys are on the same page as far as like making good decisions, So
yeah, that is kind of a big thing. You got to make that decision together.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
That's cool. We can all relate, I think.
But my wife is like an all-star, man. Through the whole process, she's been like super supportive. She jumps in, she gets her hands dirty, and like honestly, I would not be here where we are without my wife. So like, shout out to you, honey. Love you.
That's good. All right, well let's go back. What did that very first deal look like when you got involved?
So when I first started, there was a bunch of fumbles because when you're a brand new investor, you don't know anything, right? I didn't know how lending works. I didn't know like borrowing money. I didn't know about hard money. I didn't know all these different things. And so like, I actually I tried to buy a few in the very beginning that ended up like not working. And I pissed off this lender because I didn't know what I didn't know and like doing things that you weren't supposed to do. And I wasn't just aware of it. But eventually it came down to we just trying to like find deals. And so like, there's like some forums where you can like talk to other investors and stuff. And I met this wholesaler who was wholesaling like real estate properties in out-of-state Indianapolis, of all places. And so I work and live in Hawaii, and I'm familiar with Hawaii, but there's other markets where the cash flow on average is like actually like a little bit better. And so like after doing like a little bit of research, I found like there's a bunch of markets where you can buy houses for like a lot cheaper in Hawaii, and then they'll actually like rent for like similar or like just a little bit less. Mm-hmm. So then you can like purchase these houses and it'll be cash flow positive. Versus like let's say like in Hawaii, you buy $1 million house, you can rent it for like $3,000 maybe, right? In Indianapolis, you can buy like $100,000 house and rent it for $1,000. So then like the spread between your rent and your mortgage is actually like pretty decent on these kinds of markets. And so that for that reason and a bunch of other reasons, I chose to go out of state for my first investing, just to do like use a burst strategy and to try and build up a passive income and rental portfolio. So first deal, bought it from off a wholesaler actually. So
did you take a rehab or what did it
yeah,
like?
so I mean it was like so in the very beginning I didn't have any money. So in local banks in Hawaii, you can do this thing called a personal line of credit. So then they'll take you, like you just bring your tax return and then like your credit score, and they'll give you like between 20 to like 15 to like 30 grand in just like an unsecured line of credit. So on one day I went to like just like 5 banks and it's like, hey, I want to take out a personal line of credit. Bank of Hawaii, First Hawaiian, Central Pacific, you know, like the 5 guys like all around like Ala Moana. And then I got like 20, 15, 30, like 15, 20. And so I got like 100 something just lines of credit to do like my first deal in Indianapolis. And it wouldn't be close to do a deal in Hawaii, but in Indianapolis, that money goes a little bit farther, right? So first deal in Indianapolis, like the guy was selling it for 70 grand, and it was a fixer. And so like, okay, so like bought it cash, like sight unseen, like basically like pictures, and I had other like guys walk it, right? Like that, I called around and like to the references, and so purchase price $70,000, and so that was like their beginning.
What about the rehab?
So we hired a contractor. The rehab turned out to be about $30,000. Okay. And then, long story short, like working out of state, there's challenges working with the contractor. At the very end, it kind of fell apart. I had to pull in a project manager to kind of help me finish the job. But basically, $30,000 total rehab. And it's kind of crazy because, number one, that like growing up in Hawaii, I only know like $1 million houses. Like that's just like what a house costs. And so the fact that you can buy a house for $70,000, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, like 1,200 square feet, like, you know, it's crazy to me. And then even the rehabs, like $30,000, like the brand new like interior 3-2 with a garage and new roof, like is like for $30,000 at least in 2019 anyway. And so I think to me like the numbers are just like super crazy. But I mean, so $30,000 rehab, and then after it was all fixed up, we found a renter, renting it for like a little over $1,000, and then we went to the bank to refinance it. Long story short, the first appraisal came back at $70,000, which is like exactly what I bought it for. I was like, this does not make sense. So like looking at my comps, like, you know, so looking at the appraisers, what he's using for his data, he had there was a guy that was sold it for $60,000, like right down the street from me, but it was on the market right now for $150. So a flipper had bought a fix-up house and it was selling for $150 now. So like obviously it's not like it wasn't a good like for like, right? Or you need to adjust for like the current like value. And there's another house like similar, and so like I appealed the appraisal with the appraiser, and then like long story short, like he agreed with my appeal, and it appraised for $140 after that. So it went from 70 to 140.
And so you're able to pull
out 105, yeah. So I got all my cash out from that first one, rented it out, did my first burr. I was like, okay, I'm hooked. Let's do more of these.
What was your cash flow on that first deal?
So like it's renting a little over $1,000. My mortgage, PI and TI about $700, about $100 to my property management. So like on paper is like $200, but if you do like a capex and vacancies and everything, so basically like cash flow even after like those kinds of things. Like,
right,
so,
vacancies, ventures. Okay.
And you put that aside. So
it's not a bad first deal. I've heard a lot worse. That's for sure.
Yeah,
so speaking of worst, what's your worst deal been like?
So luckily in the last like 4 years of investing, I've never come close to like losing money on a deal, except for the last deal we're in like right now. And so I think it's kind of been helpful because it's been such a like appreciated market. But this last deal that we're in right now, it's a fix and flip. And I think we're either gonna break even or lose like a little bit of money. So like it's gonna be the first one. But basically it's a fix and flip in Manoa. We bought it for 1.2. We put about a $80,000 rehab into it, and then we're selling it we're in escrow right now for 1.45. So yeah. But basically it's gonna be a break even after all like the holding costs and like the realtor fees and all those kind of things, you know. So
yeah. What'd you learn from that?
I think like to be honest with you, like right now or in that particular project was we just had too much deals going on. Like I think we've got like 10 or 12 like going on at the same time, and then so like the fact that we took our eyes off the ball because like, you know, like your spread's so thin as far as like your time and attention. So there's a few details in the rehab that we missed that we should have caught. And then in addition to like the market is kind of like going down now, right? So like the prices like in general are falling. So like there's a few kind of factors that like we kept our took our eye off the ball as far as like the rehab and like the making sure certain things that should have been done, and then like the market is falling, and then I mistakenly thought, so then the back is a 20,000 square foot lot, but in the back is a stream that runs through it, and I thought the stream would be a plus because like I would love to have a stream in the back of my house, right? Like you own part of the stream, there's fish inside there, there's ducks, like, you know, it's like super cool for me. But then apparently for like young families, it's like a safety hazard, right? Because like you have kids, if they and in today's like day and world, like, you know, like everybody gotta wear helmets and like other things, you know. So it was like, if I was a kid, my parents would be like, go play in the stream in the back, you know, like. But in today's, I think a lot of families, and with good cause, like, you know, like it's a safety issue, so like they're concerned like about like the stream in the back. And then so if you have young kids or you're starting a family, it limits your buyer pool as far as like what you're like who's gonna be buying, right? So there's a few different things where I initially thought like because I would like it, that I thought it was a plus, but then actually looking at the market and the buyer pool is actually like a minus for that particular property. So
interesting. That's a really good lesson to learn from. I think we can all take something away from that.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts to someone who's getting started in real estate investing? What would, like, a piece of advice or maybe like a lesson you've learned that's cost you some money that you could maybe pass on to us?
I think like one thing that I wish I did earlier was network more or talk to more other investors. I think when I first started, it was a lot of solo, like just trying to learn and do things by myself. But like now that I've talked to like other investors and seen like what other guys are doing, I think I should have like partnered or like got the advice of another experienced investor when I was first doing my first deals or like kind of starting out, because it like helps you to kind of oversee and make sure you don't make the mistakes that like a newer investor would make, you know, and so. Right. And then also just like there's so many like little like intangible lessons you're gonna learn from like other investors or learning or resources and stuff. And so like, let's say you don't have money, somebody has money. Let's say you need a deal, other people have deals. And so like, there's a lot of times where you don't have all the pieces to the puzzle, but there's another guy who doesn't have all the pieces to the puzzle, but together you guys have all the pieces to the puzzle. I said I think like networking or working with other investors like earlier on, I think would have been a big bonus to my career when I first started.
Yeah, you're really big into networking now, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, like it's basically like that's really what's launched me into like I think the current level of success that we had, where in the beginning just kind of grinding it out on my own, then eventually started like going to like a lot of networking events and getting around like other people who were kind of doing it. And it's also kind of cool because it changes, like there's this intangible thing where like, your mindset like shifts. So like when I first started, I was like, dude, if I could just get like $5,000 in passive income, I'll be so stoked. Like, you know, like I mean, like literally, I was like, and then raising like $20,000 was like a lot of money to me at that point in time, right? Because like I was like, this is like a big chunk of money. But you get around these guys who are like crushing and they're like making like $100,000 a month. Like you're a small fry, but like it changes like what you think is normal. And so your perspective of the world and what you think is normal, it shifts. And when you're around them enough, you're just gonna naturally rise to that same level, because you want to be like in either you're gonna like run away and quit, or you're gonna have to rise to get to that same level. Like, you know, it's like if all your friends are less like bodybuilders or something, and you're like not a bodybuilder, you guys go to the gym regularly, you're either gonna be like not gonna hang out with them anymore, or you're gonna start bodybuilding and it's like trying to like get yoked or whatever the thing is, right? So same thing with financial, like financially, when your friends are financially healthy, then you're naturally gonna kind of take those habits and take those principles and kind of, it's gonna like naturally seep into your life, I think. So like just like that, the power of networking is it's a huge like mindset thing to just get around the people who are like doing these like very cool things. So.
Yeah, I mean, I see you out there on social media a lot. You guys can follow. What's your tag?
Daniel Kong 808.
Okay.
Instagram and TikTok. So.
Yeah, you guys should follow him. That's how I found you and discovered you. I see a lot that you guys are doing here on the island with other investors. A lot of networking. A lot on social media. Yeah, deals in Aloha. I've seen some of that stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Very cool. Thanks so much for being here, man.
Yeah, really thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it.
So guys, Georgino, check out Daniel Kong online on Instagram, TikTok, Daniel Kong 808. You follow us. We'll be posting some of his stuff. We'll be posting this to all of our social media as well. Reach out if you guys have a question for him, and I'll try to get an answer for you. It's Georgino. See you guys on the next one.